crazy hair. Hey everyone, David here. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is upon us once again, and here I am to review the 5th episode in Season 1, Girl in the Flower Dress. Sounds like a 70s soft rock song. And once again, new case of the week. This time it involves this Asian guy in Hong Kong, who happens to have some form of pyrokinetic power, in which he's able to manifest fire from his hands without touching him. And he reveals this power to a girl that catches his eye, but of course this girl ends up being evil and takes him in order to perform experiments. And this guy was actually on S.H.I.E.L.D's special list of people that they watch over to make sure that they don't do anything crazy with their powers, because apparently there's a list that more than likely the Avengers are a part of. The Avengers are definitely on this list, but along with that there's other people on the list of people that S.H.I.E.L.D. oversee to make sure that they don't do anything crazy with their powers, because obviously that's what S.H.I.E.L.D. does. And since he's been kidnapped, it's up to S.H.I.E.L.D. to go and recover him. On the surface, the plot sounds very reminiscent of the episode, I can't remember, I think it was 3. Yeah, I believe it was 3. 3 with the guy who eventually became Graviton Man. The Asset. The one where he was the Asset and S.H.I.E.L.D. had to go and get him and bring him back because he was an official scientist of S.H.I.E.L.D. This sounds similar to that because he was under S.H.I.E.L.D's registry. So, like I said, on the surface, the plot sounds exactly the same. But what this show had, or at least this episode, what this episode had over the other episodes is that whereas it wasn't as fun as the last episode, because the last episode, I told you guys in my review, I thought it was really fun because it had such a creepy storyline with, somebody playing Big Brother on that person, and then that person that was playing Big Brother on that person was actually also being watched. So I thought that was actually pretty cool, and an awful lot of elements, some darker, more serious elements played very well in that episode. And lo and behold, keeping in tradition with the last episode, this episode also reminds you that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. means business. Now, it's not the darkest show that you're going to watch on television, it's not like a Breaking Bad successor. I'm probably going to make an awful lot of Breaking Bad references from now on when I'm talking about television. But it reminds you that if this was a movie, it would probably still manage to get some form of a PG-13 rating. And whereas last episode did it with violence and strong imagery, this episode did it with the next big thing. Sex. Or at least implications of sex. It's still a PG-rated show. Somewhat. Yes, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. finally goes in with their first pseudo-sex scene. Of course, by pseudo I mean they don't actually show it, they just show the implications. The before and after, if you know what I mean. Yeah, like you've seen in ABC shows. And the people involved, Skye, but not with Ward. Basically, this episode goes down 2 lines. One line is a little centered around Skye. Once again, Skye is one of the more focal points of this episode. Whereas the other one is about this guy, I think his name was Chan. Oh, that's such an original name for a Hong Kong native. But it's his storyline with his power and how he plays in with something bigger. The story with Skye is that while on a mission to try to retrieve the guy that has managed to leak information involving this guy Chan, it turns out that this guy that leaked the information has, had some sort of affiliation, and by affiliation I mean sleeping together with Skye when Skye was still part of the rising tide. Where I think it's clear that Joss Whedon is definitely taking this to a more dramatic level, and this episode definitely showcased that, and it showed that this show could definitely deliver some gravity, if you will, within human drama. And I'm hoping that they explore that better as the season goes on. But the harsh thing is that in the beginning of this episode, we actually started to like Skye a lot, especially her chemistry with Ward. They're all playing Battleship, and it's just fun to see, and their banter between one another. It's not annoying, it's comical, it's playful, and it's very charming to see. Lo and behold, Skye rips our hearts out and lets us dislike the character once again by betraying S.H.I.E.L.D. by tipping off that guy that they were searching for, only to later on meet up with him and sleeping with him. And it hurt, because if I were to still feel the same way I felt about Skye at the beginning of the season, more so in episode 2 or 3, one of those two, I probably wouldn't have cared, because I would have totally expected that from Skye, to be sleeping around and betraying S.H.I.E.L.D. But because she actually grew to be a more likable character by the end of, I believe, episode 3, and she was really likable in last week's episode, and she was quite likable at the beginning of this one, it actually kind of hurt to see her betray the group like that. But then the drama really hit the fan when she opens the door and Agent May is right there. Everyone's there. Coulson is pissed. And right there you could tell that her betrayal is going to play a huge part within the group. Things aren't just going to be the same. And part of me thinks that that's actually rather cool, that they're making things more dramatic, like Joss Whedon is planning to doing with the Avengers, taking things more personal. But at the same time, I think to myself, we are, I think, just 1/4 or maybe a third or so into season 1. I probably would have liked this a little bit better if it happened either at the end of the season or sometime in season 2, because after liking this character for so long, that betrayal would have definitely broken our hearts, like for real, like made us cry. And perhaps what hurts most is that the guy that she hooked up with in this episode it's gotta be one of the most idiotic hackers I've seen. And by idiotic, I mean in the choices that he decides to make, of things that he thought would have worked to make his life better. Not so much of how much he learned how to hack and how to use technology and whatnot, but man, really, Skye, that guy? And I was scared they were gonna go for the love triangle between that guy, Skye, and Ward, especially during that scene during the climax where all three of them are within the shot, and Ward and that guy, I can't remember his name. Oh, Miles. It's Ward and Miles both say something at the exact same time, and I'm like, oh, the love triangle, no. Fortunately, this is probably going to be the last time, at least for a while, that we're going to see Miles, especially since he's not going to be able to use any technology for a while, like Coulson said. So I'm glad they're going to go ahead and stay away from that, but again, for now. But after my disdain for Skye for having betrayed the group, I actually started to, I don't want to say sympathize, but feel sorry for her in a way where you feel sorry for somebody who has done something bad, and you feel sorry for them not because you sympathize, but because you're like, man, you had it here and you just had to throw it away. I felt that way for Skye. But for the first time, I actually did not want to have an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because before, it's not like I wanted it to end because it was so dreadful or anything. Not necessarily in that sense. I was just like, okay, episode ended. Cool. Here, I didn't want the episode to end because I actually wanted to find out a little more about Skye. She's been so mysterious up until this point, living in that van and whatnot. But when she pulled out that card from her bosom, I was like, okay, we're actually going to find out some really deep stuff about Skye. But then, they only alluded to it. They gave you enough without giving everything away. And I actually kind of like that. Saves something for the later episodes. But never before have I been so terrified of pissed off Coulson. He hardly even changes his facial expression. He still has the same face, but you can tell from the tone of his voice that he means business. He is mad as hell, and you just don't want to mess with this guy right now. Speaking of emoting faces, wow. Agent May actually smiling? That was a huge relief to see at the beginning of this episode, especially when she's being all, witty with Coulson about sparring like in the old days. I really like that. Now, before I wrap up, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the other plot line that I was talking about of Han or Chan. What was his name? I don't know. It was some Asian man. I think there's a reason why they went ahead and gave him like the girl says, a simpler name, Scorch. Now, at the time of this video, I have no idea if he's actually from the comics, any sort of Marvel comics, whether it be, Iron Man, Captain America, or S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever, any sort of Marvel comic. But this guy, Scorch, is taken in by this woman, can't remember her name either. It was like some exotic name. She looked exotic too. She was actually rather beautiful. But I like to consider Scorch as Mike Peterson 2.0. Mike Peterson being the subject from the pilot episode. And the reason why I call him that is because not only does he have, I don't want to say similar powers, because his is pyrokinetics, and Mike Peterson was being able to jump really high and have superhuman strength. So they're not exactly the same kind of powers, but these two characters, their treatments of their powers are practically the same. They have this gift, but they don't want to use it because they don't want people out there to find out, people that they're afraid of, while at the same time wanting to be more recognized. I mean, it was almost the exact same plot line. I really did not appreciate that. And what made matters worse is that it almost felt like it was written by somebody completely different. In the opening credits, it says right there that it was written by just one person. Can't remember that name. But it was only written by one person. It almost felt like it was written by somebody else completely, because there was some bad dialogue. You almost got scorched. The girl in the dress, again, I can't remember her name. She was written very stereotypically in terms of a villain, in terms of that femme fatale who lures you in with her good looks but then manages to catch you. I mean, we've seen that kind of character before, and the actress didn't bring anything new to the table in terms of that kind of character, so that only added more to what I didn't like about this whole plot. And like I said, you got that character who's misunderstood, says, I want to be recognized by my powers, but then I get angry for no reason. Seriously, I'm getting tired of characters that get angry for no reason. And because they get angry for no reason, you can obviously tell that they're either going to get killed off or they're going to be locked away. And sure enough, he blows up. However, he blows up because of extremis, which leads me to what I did like about this side plot. I'm not going to call it a subplot, more of a side plot, because this is going on while this whole dilemma was happening with Skye. And that is that it actually managed to tie back in with the pilot episode, with Extremis, with Centipede. Okay, I'm digging that they're bringing back some things from the early episodes, particularly the pilot, and hopefully this is the sign that the writers are not forgetting. I mean, there was at least one clear sign in last week's episode with that whole thing about Tahiti with Coulson. Here, they're actually bringing back a subplot that's going on in the background that is kind of important, especially since you're taking it from a blockbuster Marvel movie, Iron Man 3. So I like it that they're bringing that back, and I'm hoping that in the next few episodes they're gonna bring Graviton back. They're not gonna ignore this. They're not gonna let it go untouched for a long time, all the way until season 2 when they finally bring it up, because it makes no sense for this thing to be dormant for so long and then just bring it up in season 2 very artificially. No, I'm liking that they're actually going ahead and tying it back around within the season, making it more like it's real time, quote unquote. So I really dug that. Overall, this episode wasn't as fun as last week, but it did bring things that I wasn't exactly expecting Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to do, or at least not as early as this within the season, which is to bring some really good drama within the group, stuff that really hit kind of hard, especially because we were getting to like Skye so well that when she did this, it actually hurt. And fortunately, I didn't stay mad at her. I was actually feeling sorry for her by the end of this episode. And within that, I actually wanted the episode to keep going to find out a little bit more about her, so then I can side with her as to why she's a hacker. Why is it that she has all these secrets and at the same time wants to find out about S.H.I.E.L.D. secrets? And hopefully this makes Skye evolve as a character, especially because she knows that she's kind of mad at herself for having betrayed the group, because she was actually starting to like this group. I mean, she felt like crap, especially taking it from Coulsons, saying, hey, I stood up for you. So I'm really hoping this gets developed a lot better and a lot more as the episodes go on, especially with her interactions with Ward and Fitz and Simmons, because they were kind of upset too. But the been there, done that nature of the whole Scorch plotline did take away from the episode a little bit, even though it did manage to bring back a subplot from the pilot. So I'm going to go ahead and give Girl in the Flower Dress an 8.5 out of 10, which is a B. So far this show has been nothing but B. I'll be back next week with my review of episode 6, and until next time guys, keep watching. Seriously, keep watching my videos.